Good afternoon. I'm back. Yep, back in the library where I can record and do things quietly now. So, welcome back to Roberta's Countdown to Retirement. As I said last week, although you might not have been able to hear me really well since I was recording down on Tillamook Bay and the wind was blowing really hard, you couldn't really hear everything. So, I'd been gone for a couple of weeks because I didn't feel really well. Plus, um, last week was a holiday, so the library was closed, so that's why I was filming down by the bay. But the library's open, and I'm back. So here we are. And it's really cool because now I'm at 27 months left till retirement, getting closer and closer every time I turn around. So I was able to cross off another month. That's exciting. So every week I have to think about things that I want to talk about. So, as I've mentioned a couple times here, I work in retail. And I work in retail in a large tourist venue where we see somewhere between 1 million to 1.2 million visitors a year. And so I work in the retail store. So I meet a lot of people and I oversee people meeting a lot of people. In the summer, a lot of the associates that I work with, they range from 14 to 20 something. And sometimes it's their first job and their first interaction with the public, first experience with tourists. And so I just wanted to talk about how we all treat retail workers and make some requests about things that I've experienced in the last 10 years. Actually, I've been working with the public ever since I started working in an office because I always had the front counter role and the telephone person role. So I've always been dealing with the public. But it's hard sometimes. And people our age have some things that they expect when they go in a store. And sometimes that's just not possible to do. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is here in Oregon, we have to pay for bags. So if you come from a state that doesn't make you do that, people can get really upset and they start yelling at a kid that's waiting on them because they don't get a free bag. I often think when I was growing up, the governor of Oregon, his name was Tom McCall. And there were all these signs posted around the border that said, "Welcome to Oregon. Enjoy your visit, but don't stay." So now I feel like the sign should say, "Welcome to Oregon. Please know that you're going to pay for shopping bags when you go in a store, but hey, we have no sales tax, and now you can pump your own gas." Those are the things you can do in Oregon. And I always say before you go on vacation, you should check out the rules about where you're going so that you know what to anticipate because through the years I've had some bad experiences from people who didn't expect things to go a certain way. Like during COVID, Oregon had some pretty stringent laws about how things were working. And I became a monitor who was supposed to monitor people wearing masks and how many people were in the building and having to stand at the door and tell people they couldn't come in till some other people had left so that we had building limits for the size of our building, how many people could be in the building. And we had people, it was really odd. It was COVID and one would have thought they would have stayed in their home stay, but since they weren't in school, their kids weren't in school, they decided they could travel. So once we reopened to the public in June of 2020 or July of 2020, we had visitors from all over the country and they were coming from states that didn't have mask mandates like we did, that didn't have limits on how many people. And so I was called things like mask Nazi and wicked witch. I won't finish that phrase because I was called the other word that goes instead of witch, but that's what I was called. Wasn't my fault. Every business was allowed on top of all the things that during COVID that the state mandated. Private businesses could make their own set of rules too because they aren't just responsible for the public, they're responsible for the people who work for them. And they want people to come visit, so they wanted us to stay healthy so we could stay open. So there were extra requirements like for the first year of COVID, we didn't take cash, only cards. Um, and that was when I began to realize how many people live in the world that still don't use cards, that only live, and they would get really angry when I couldn't take their cash because we weren't even opening our registers and putting cash in. We just couldn't do it. In fact, at one point, um, one of our seasoned leads was at the register, and somebody was told that they couldn't accept cash, and this little old lady threw something frozen at my colleague because they couldn't buy it. So they just threw it at her. She was lucky she didn't get hurt. It was frozen. But, you know, retail workers just want a little respect. It's not an easy job. So I'm just asking, when you go to the store, when you go to the restaurant, treat these people with a little respect, because especially if you're coming in at the end of the day, they've been there all day asking, putting up with things. So my big peeve right now is when you're expected to buy a bag and they tell you, you buy a big bunch of stuff, but you didn't bring in a bag. Now, most of the people I talk to say their bags are out in their car, so they do know that most stores expect that, but they didn't bring it in, and then they get mad because they want a free bag to carry all their stuff out. And unfortunately, state law, when they mandated that single-use plastic bags would go away, they also mandated that each store would charge for bags. Where I work, we've recently gone away from having any paper bags, trying to be really worrying about sustainability and not cutting down more trees. So we got really inexpensive reusable bags. A small one for 75 cents and a larger one for $1.50. People get really angry about that, and I actually heard them accuse one of our young folks, said our store was just trying to build our profits. Well, surprise, surprise, our store was basically charging cost. So we weren't making a profit. When we charge for paper bags, when we run out of our reusable ones, we charge 5 cents. And that's cheap because other stores are charging some of them are charging a quarter or more. So, but don't yell at the person that's checking you out, because they didn't make the rule and they can't make the exception. Sometimes a lead like me can make an exception, but I'm constrained by the rules of the store, wherever it is. I just want to say, being pleasant and being nice to your cashier, especially when you can tell by looking at their face that they're 14 or 15 years old. They don't know how to respond when somebody's angry with them. I've actually seen this past summer, customers making one of our young people cry because they were being yelled at. I can't remember what it was, but they were being yelled at because the experience the customer was getting, was not what they wanted to get, not what they expected to get. And I'm sorry, sometimes we just can't give you the experience you want to have in the store. The other thing that I ran into this summer and almost every summer is we are constrained by being behind the counter to how we can respond when people want to, say, talk about religion or politics. We can't talk back, so we have to listen to what you have to say. Doesn't seem fair. We're a captive audience. So I would ask, some of our young people don't understand when somebody's talking about faith and wants to hand them a pamphlet about a religious thing. They don't understand why people are doing that. They just don't, and they don't know how to respond. Sometimes I don't know how to respond. But I would say, please don't do it, because the person behind the counter, it doesn't matter what store you're in, the person behind the counter cannot respond to what you're talking about, when it's politics and religion. We can smile and nod our head yes, but if we shake our head no, then we're starting to say something that disagrees with you, and there isn't a store owner around that wants their employees to do that. They want the customer to feel comfortable. So I'm just asking the customer, think about what you're talking about. Um, tell them how much you're enjoying visiting the coast if you're here, or wherever you're visiting. Tell the person that's waiting on you when they do a good job. Tell them they do a good job. Um, it's also okay to tell them that there's something they could do better. Just find a nice way to say it. Especially when they're 14, 15, 16. They got a lot to learn and they don't know how to take criticism really well. But if you give them positive feedback about what they're doing or not doing, they're going to learn and they're going to be better and they're going to treat you better and they're going to treat the person next that comes next in their line better. Um, that's all I'm asking. Civility, politeness, niceness. Um, I think everybody that works in retail wants to do a good job, wants their customers to be happy, wants everyone to be satisfied when they leave. But sometimes it's just not possible. And don't ask us to break rules because people lose jobs when they break rules. And in this time and place, none of us want to lose a job. So just please, please, please think about how you're treating the people in the store, in the restaurant. Um, if it's somebody's first job, they have they have a lot to learn, and you can help them learn that, and you don't have to be sharp and mean. You don't have to make them cry. Um, I just want everyone that comes to Oregon to have a great time whatever store you go in. Have a good time. Enjoy the beautiful weather when it's beautiful. When you come to the coast, enjoy a stormy day. Um, Oddly enough, the retail workers can't do anything about the weather. Wish we could sometimes. But so when you come to a business on a really nasty, stormy, or icy day or snowy day, be grateful they're there because a lot of businesses close down. So be grateful to the people that are open and want you to have a good time, because don't get mad because things are closed, because um, employers have to worry about their employees and if they're going to be able to get home safely on the road. On the coast, we worry about flooding a lot in the winter, and a lot of the employees, it doesn't matter what store on the coast you go to, they're worried about whether they're going to be able to get home or whether they're going to get to work okay. So don't be mad if a store is closed. Also, don't be mad if a store is closing early, because sometimes closing early means that the retail employees get to drive home in the daylight and see the road conditions and see what's going on. And that's all the employer is trying to do, is make sure that everyone's safe. So I'm just asking, when you go into a retail establishment, any retail establishment, no matter what state you're in, a little kindness, a smile. Takes as much energy to smile as it does to frown. So, a little smile, a little laughter can make any personal interaction better, whether it's retail or just people you're meeting on the street. A smile, a laugh, a hello, a little civility and common courtesy go a long way in making life better for us all. And that's all I'm asking for when you come in any retail store or meet someone on the street or talk to someone online. Courtesy, pleasantness, those are things that don't hurt anybody. They help make the day go better. So anyway, that was my pet peeve for today. So I'm just gonna stop there. Hope you're having a great week. Hope you had a great weekend. I did. And I hope if you're working towards retirement, I hope it's all going well for you. One of the things I want to promise here is on this particular blog, vlog, whatever we're calling it, I'm not going to talk about politics, and I'm not going to talk about religion. If you want to hear the things I think about those, then you'll have to go to my personal Facebook page, which you can do. And because in the near future I will be posting some things about myself there. But that's not what you're going to hear here. Here you're going to hear about things I'm doing or things that come up that I think we can talk about. And you can hear my perspective on something. You can leave comments. If it's a nasty comment, I'll probably delete it. I'm just here to have some fun. And I don't need to be schooled on anything. These are just my opinions, my feelings, and my thoughts as I am winding down my career, my work life. So anyway, I hope you're having a good week. It's only Monday, but I'm having a good week so far, and we were really busy last week at my work, so we'll be really busy this week, I'm sure, and that makes the week go fast. And I hope you have a good one. Bye.